I would say, firstly, that the research that I think this award was given to me for is research that began as basic science. It was trying to understand what regulates blood stem cells, makes them turn into different types of white blood cell or red blood cell. And we spent many years looking at these different factors and succeeded in purifying one to the point that we could actually identify the gene that produced it. And the importance of that is that we could then produce abundant amounts of that protein using recombinant DNA technology. And we go back to the early 1980s when this technology was really beginning to move into the biotech industry. And so I decided to look for a biotech company that was interested in developing this, what I thought would have potential ultimately in human therapy, human cancer therapy in particular. And all of the startup biotech companies, many of them well-known names to you now, said, well, it was all very interesting, but they had their own in-house project. So I found a small company that had 4 or 5 employees. It's called Amgen. And they were quite enthusiastic. They had one person who just started there after his postdoc, and he said, oh, we can produce that in bacteria in no time. And they did, and there we went, had enough material to begin preclinical trials. We did the first clinical trials at my institute, and within 5 years had FDA-approved drug. It's one of the fastest tracks, I think, on record. And that was achieved because of collaboration. It started as a basic science observation. It could translate because I was very fortunate to work in a comprehensive cancer center with the facilities where this could be tested in preclinical models and then move into phase 1, phase 2 clinical trials in cancer patients at my own institution. It was a very smooth and very efficient process. And of course, the collaboration with biotech or pharmaceutical companies is a very important ingredient in this equation, often forgotten, but there is no way that academic medical institutions can support the incredibly high costs of doing the extensive clinical trials the FDA requires. So my interests were always in leukemia and blood cell formation, but 2 or 3 years ago, some cancer surgeons at Sloan Kettering came to me and said, we've heard about things called cancer stem cells. What are they? And there doesn't seem to be anybody working on them at this institute. And I said, well, you know, I work on blood stem cells, and I'm not really working on lung cancer stem cells. And they said, well, why don't you? And I thought about it, and, you know, it's a change of pace for me. So I said, yes, began a project looking into cancers that were essentially incurable. Lung cancer, ovarian cancer, and sarcoma. And in the last 3 years, we've been, I think, quite successful in characterizing cancer stem cells. And the importance of this area of research is because of a growing belief that the cure for cancer, particularly in those cancers where we do not have effective chemo or radiation therapy at the moment, will come by development of novel drugs that will target these elusive cancer cells that are the stem cells of the cancer and are resistant to most conventional treatment. So when we achieve a remission in a cancer, these cells are still lurking there, protected in some way from our standard therapies. And to develop drugs that specifically kill those cells is our goal. It's the goal of many cancer investigators at the moment. And I think from that research, we hopefully will move quite rapidly into developing therapies that will actually have some meaningful effect in these otherwise intractable cancers. So let me now, I'd wish to thank the organization, your efforts for supporting the young investigators, the fellows. This is a critical cadre of people. Paul Nurse last year, of course, emphasized this. We've already heard this discussed previously. Extremely important, because if we do not support these young people, that have already spent 10 or 15 years of their lives before they even get to a point where they have junior faculty support. These young people are the generation that is going to take the basic science discoveries and the translational research to the point that we can see the impacts in patient care. It was amusing that Dr. Mello echoed the comments that how much pleasure as a scientist it gives one to do science, and that we would do it even if we weren't paid for it. This was said to me by my first mentor in my first postdoctoral fellowship, shortly after he received the Nobel Prize for Medicine. It was Sir Macfarlane Burnet. So it must be a Nobel Prize-y sort of thing. The only problem was Sir Max said it in public on the radio in Australia at the time when the University Professors Association was trying to get the government to increase the salaries of scientists. And unfortunately, the government said, well, you're very happy doing what you do. Maybe we should cut your salaries. Anyway, to just re-emphasize that any research, any translational research that is going to have major impact on patient cancer care is a collaborative effort. Of course, I have to thank all of my collaborators over the years, my own fellows, and I also would like to thank my dear wife, Fran, and my son, Andy, who are both here tonight, who have put up with me over these years as well, being, as scientists are, working odd hours and taking lots of time to do research rather than do all the family things that we should really be doing, and I know we should, but I keep saying we are trying to cure cancer here, so it's my excuse. Anyway, thank you. It's been a great pleasure here. I'm looking forward to the rest of the evening.